in a world of a lot of isolation to then also be isolated just in the things that we enjoy and watch and experience. Let's talk theater. Today we are going to talk a little bit about Wicked as a phenomenon while I get ready to see Wicked in theaters in about an hour. So we're going to chat because I've been thinking about the mourning of Wicked. I am mourning this time being over, having this thing to look forward to, and not just having this thing to look forward to. You guys know I see a lot of theater. I often have things in my week to look forward to, but having this thing that so many other people are looking forward to and missing that as a phenomenon, I think is going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So I have a mirror here. My mic is here. I don't know if that's helpful, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot because I love theater. You guys know this about me. I'm going to actually put this here. That's probably a better compromise. Okay. I love theater, but I am usually only seeing theater with one person. Maybe if I'm lucky, it's a show I get to see multiple times and like bring a different person each time I go. And then, you know, sometimes I'm going by myself. Sometimes I'm going to a show, seeing it by myself, and I'm sharing the experience with people who are in attendance in like a general human way, but we're not actually sharing the experience. I'm not talking about them, or if I am talking to them, it's for a couple minutes, right? It's during the show, maybe intermission or after, but then that's it. We part ways. There's no debrief or anything like that. And so I've been thinking about Wicked as an entity and how it almost feels sad that I'm about to see it and that's just it. There's going to be no more. It's over. And I come at this as somebody who's not even that big of a fan of Wicked as a musical. Like, I'm actually not a huge fan. I've seen it twice. I think a time when I saw it, but it was never a musical that I understood like why so many people love it when there are so many musicals that I love a lot more. I think it has really high points, but I also just think that the lesser points are not that. They just don't really do it for me. And honestly, that sheet pisses me off. The big moment where the Wicked Witch melts and it's just a sheet kills me. And so I've had the controversial yet brave opinion through this process of the movie coming out and seeing the first one that I might never see Wicked the musical ever again. I feel like the movie does it for me. I feel like the movie in some ways, and it's so rare to be able to see this, but like seeing Oz the way that a movie can allow you to see Oz is really meaningful, and it feels like the musical, in my opinion, is at its height in this format. I do wish the colors were saturated. Like, I'm not gonna act like it's the most perfect piece of cinema ever, but it's pretty freaking good. And for a musical of this stature, I think it's an incredible adaptation. So, something I've been thinking about with Wicked has just been the expanse of people who are talking about it. Everybody at work, everybody in my personal life, every random person in the world feels so excited to see Wicked. And how often do we get that? How often do we get such a vast array of lovely people excited for the same thing in the year 2025? It feels very, very rare to have something like this. It feels very, very special to have something like this because it just doesn't really feel like it's something that is cultural anymore. everybody's watching different TV shows because I can barely keep track of the TV shows that I'm watching because there's so many, and I forget that things come out, and then I remember ages later. And I never, ever run into anybody who's watching the same shows as me. And with media, because there's so much of it, that's lovely. That's a great thing. But it also means that we're not having shared experiences with media anymore. All right, I think I'm going to do this very, very pink here, and I think I want to do a little bit of green underneath. I don't care if it looks kind of funky. We are being obnoxiously on brand today. This is how I did my nails, okay? We're doing it. So, bring this a little bit closer. So, I think there's a bit of isolation in the media that we consume in a way that it just didn't used to be like this. I think about Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella because it was only recently that I learned that was done for TV. I actually had no idea. I assumed it was an older musical from the 50s. I had just never really done my research. And then I was at the Museum of Broadway and saw that mentioned in one of the exhibits of that time, and talking about the production with Santino Fontana and Laura Osnes from, I believe, 2013, and how that was the first time it was ever on Broadway. They had a lot of staged productions, several televised productions, including the famed, in my household, 97 Wonderful World of Disney TV movie Cinderella, starring Brandy and Whitney Houston. So, I knew about it and all that jazz, but I didn't know that it was actually originally written for TV, which I think is incredible. I mean, imagine that today. Like, that just does not happen. Looking into Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, learning about that initial TV broadcast, what I had learned was that 107 million viewers watched Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, which is about 60% of American households at the time. 60% of American households watched Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella on television. And we also have to keep in mind that this was a live broadcast. It was broadcast totally live on the East Coast and then broadcast like later on the West Coast. And yeah, 107 million people sat down and experienced something at the same time. When is that done? When is that done? That is insane. That is insane numbers. And while we will see kind of what Wicked ultimately brings in box office, obviously people are not going to the movies, then they're going and they're watching it at home, right? They're broadcasting things on television. I believe they're broadcasting, if not have already broadcast the first Wicked on TV. Like, Roger and Hammerstein, over half the country experienced it. And it wasn't just that. Like, it's the 50s, right? There were not many channels. But even if you look at the Friends finale viewership, Friends was 2004, and it was watched by 52 million people. Like, that's unbelievable. And, with Friends, like, you didn't have to, especially back in the day, it was very normal to, like, pop in and out of sitcoms. It was very normal to, like, not watch it religiously, but it became such a cultural phenomenon. It became such a big deal at that point that 52 million people still tuned in. We could never do that. And I think that's something that feels very special about Wicked and experiencing Wicked in theaters, because it just feels like this moment where we are suddenly in a similar space. It just feels like it's reaching beyond the theater kids, right? It's reaching beyond this like niche group of society, and just so many people are excited about it, and we're seeing so much branding and so much excitement, like ridiculous amounts of branding, ridiculous amounts of like different products and things that Wicked is involved in. But it does show just how much everybody cares. You know, they wouldn't be making the TV specials. They wouldn't be pairing with like every brand in the universe ever if people didn't care and if people weren't excited. And we can talk about Barbie and Oppenheimer and these things. But they didn't get the attention that Wicked is getting and the exposure that Wicked is getting. And so to have something like this is really special. And I do feel like there's going to be a little bit of like post Wicked sadness, because it's just rare that so many people are looking forward to this same thing. You know, so few people watch the same programming. People barely watch TV at all. And then we have such access to older TV that then sometimes, like, I'm watching shows sometimes that are from 20 years ago that nobody remembers. There's nobody to talk about these shows with people, let alone the newer shows, the network shows. People forget network television even exists. So to have this is so special. In some ways, it makes me feel like a kid again. Looking at, like, I so want the Wicked Lego set that are the bookends, the adult Lego set. I so want that. I so want that. I've never had a Lego set in my life. And like I had Legos as a kid, but just like general Legos. I never had like a Lego set with instructions where you're making a specific thing. And now I want that so bad. And again, I can think of a lot of theatrical productions and things that make me feel that like sense of like childhood wow. You know, I always think of Moulin Rouge, the Elephant Love Medley, right? And the moment where they costume change and we turn the set and it just feels like so magical. Like the aerobac, the what are they? They're on like the satin. I don't know what they are. They're twirling around up there. I don't know what those are called, but that just feels so like I just feel like I'm a kid in Disney World. You know, that's how I felt watching Back to the Future. Back to the Future was not a good musical technically, but it was such a good time. It was such a good time. I felt like a kid in a, you know, an attraction at Disney World. I still don't know how they made the car fly. That's magic right there. You know, so to have this, and to get to see the merch and like, oh, do I want to buy this sweater? Do I want to do this? Oh, I love this thing. It's just like very special. And again, I can feel like that with other things, but they're never as popular. There's not as much. There's not as much excitement. Other people aren't feeling it. I'm kind of feeling it on my own, or I don't get to celebrate it as much because it doesn't have the excitement around it. So it's not getting an extra concert and a TV special and a documentary and all this merch and all this and all this that, right? Like, it's such a cool thing that we are experiencing as a culture, as a pop culture right now. I have to find my green. And so we're going to do this bad boy, the darker one, under the eye. We are experiencing a really cool thing. And again, it's a thing we just really don't get to experience a lot. And so there's going to be a little bit of sadness, I think, after I see this. And I'm just going to be like, oh, and then I saw it. And I'm already thinking about, oops, wrong one. I'm already thinking about seeing the double feature. And originally I was like, that's crazy. Like, I don't love it that much. That's like 6 hours in the movie theater. I don't even like going to the movies particularly. Not enough to be there for 6 hours straight. But I think there's such an excitement about this movie that I like don't want to end. And so I'm like, well, that will be like another piece, you know? It looks crazy, but we're gonna blend and hope it looks less crazy. No promises. So, yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on the cultural phenomenon of Wicked. Like, do you feel like this? Do you feel like this is such a big deal and this is such a special thing in a world where we are super disconnected, where everybody's on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram? Our FYPs are so different. You know, you'll hear a trending sound on TikTok, especially if you're in the theater world and you think it's going super viral, and then you look at it and like 100 people have used it and you've just seen all of the videos. You know, these things that we think are pop culture aren't. Like, we don't have pop culture like we used to. And on one hand, you can be like, what's the big deal? Like, is pop culture that important? But I do think in a world of a lot of isolation, to then also be isolated just in the things that we enjoy and watch and experience, it's hard to really reflect on that, I think. And I think that's why I love theater so much, and maybe why other people really find a joy in theater, because for 2-3 hours, me and 1,000 people are having this moment. We are sharing this thing. We are all viewing this exact thing. And that is so special. And it's just not something you get anywhere else. So for, you know, me at work today to have coworkers talking about Wicked and getting excited about it is such a big deal, because it's going to be the only thing that they probably name that I happen to also be very excited about, right? Like, what are the odds, you know? We're all just so disengaged from things that other people are engaged in. And yeah, I think it's a way in which our access to this just expansive media has isolated us in a way that doesn't feel that important, but I do think that it has more meaning than we really give it credit. So give me a minute here. We're going to put on my mascara and I'll be back. I think that the eye looks a little crazy, and it's supposed to, but a little crazier than I want it to look. So I'm trying to blend. I don't know if I should like put a little bit of white underneath to like lighten it a little bit. Just trying to very aggressively blend. I'm letting it happen. We're having fun. Okay. This is it. This is the look that we're doing. I'm committing to it. Committing to the bit. And so, in conclusion, I am gonna, I think, be sad to see Wicked go. I'm so excited to see part 2. Part 2 is something, no, it's not called part 2 anymore. That's what I think what it once was called. For good. Act 2 is a bummer. Like, Act 1 is so much stronger than Act 2 when you see the musical, and I have since read the book, and so I'm very intrigued as to how they're going to do Act 2. It's definitely going to be a different vibe. It's definitely going to be darker. I'm hoping that's for good. I am a little bit nervous because it's PG and not PG-13. So we're going to see what that does for us. But all in all, so excited. But there is a little twinge of like, what are we going to do after this? Like, what is we as a larger society what are we going to get excited about next, you know? So let me know your thoughts below. What are your thoughts on this phenomenon of Wicked and this kind of lack of pop culture that we're living in right now? We don't have culture, phenomenon, celebrity, fame like we used to. And while there are a lot of downsides to the celebrity culture of especially the 90s and early 2000s, I do think there was good that came from the shared experiences that we had when there was just less content and we engaged in more similar things. And so let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, do the YouTube things to help me out. If you want to find me on TikTok for additional kind of short form content, you can find me over there. Same username, @TheaterKates. Thank you so much for watching and taking the time to get ready to see Wicked for good with me. I look forward to hearing from you below. Thank you for giving me your time, and I'll see you next time to talk more theater. Bye.